After hosting about 300 events over the last 18 years, since I started this investor club, we've learned a lot of things on how to maximize our impact, your impact out of being here. So I'm going to provide 10 different strategies and ideas to get the most out of your time over the next 2 days. Appreciate everybody being here. We're going to have a busy couple of days. Many of you have probably been to many investment conferences. We try to have ours be the fastest moving that you've ever been to. Standalone talks are 15 minutes. We do a fireside chat, strategy session. It's usually 20 minutes. Discussion panels have 5 to 6 people on them. Almost everybody you see on stage during this event could give a half day or full day workshop on what they're talking about. It's really just to get to know who they are, provide a few insights. What are they investing in? How do they structure deals? What are they focused on right now? What trends are coming? And just so you know who they are so you can make a connection. We find when we go to other events, they put on stage 20 to 30 speakers over a day and a half or 2-day event, sometimes 20 some in 1 day. And we're usually putting 35 to 40 speakers on stage per day. So you get more connections per day, more insights per day, more variety. And we don't have any scheduled breaks because out of all the discussion panels and all the talks, there might be 1 or 2 on a topic that you're not as focused on. And then you can self-select and use that as your break, et cetera, of course. So we just find that is the way to maximize the connections here in the room. So we hope you enjoy that. After hosting about 300 events over the last 18 years, since I started this investor club, we've learned a lot of things on how to maximize our impact, your impact out of being here. So I'm going to provide 10 different strategies and ideas to get the most out of your time over the next 2 days. First thing to remember is that it's scientifically proven. Dr. Robert Cialdini shows scientific studies that it's 16 times more effective to meet in person than do things over Zoom or LinkedIn or email. I mean, that's why all of you are here. Family offices are relatively hard to reach. They get way too many emails and it's physically possible to even reply to, even with the help of a high-end executive assistant or a team member or an analyst, et cetera. And so sometimes people ask the family office, well, how do you create these relationships? If you like to work with people that you know and trust already, how do you break in? And they said, well, you come here and you be in this room and then you put a face with a name. At this event, unless you're raising $1,000 or $10,000 check, the goal isn't to close somebody today on investing with you. It's to plant a seed, it's to add value, to create a relationship. And a piece of paper with a high IRR by itself, anybody can print anything on a piece of paper and promise the moon, but it's the trust in the team and the conviction and a compelling, unique value that you add in the relationship that makes the difference. The context matters sometimes more than the content. And we've had investors on stage say that who refers the deal to them matters more than the merits of the deal. And I'll get into that in a couple minutes here. So throughout this event and any event you ever go to the rest of your life or any podcast you listen to, of course, you can't go off and just do things without paying attention to your legal jurisdiction, what legal entity you have. Do you have a fund? Is it 506C? Is it Reg D, et cetera? Also, anyone you meet here, even if they say they've known me for a decade or they're a long-term member or that I vetted them, et cetera, always vet them yourself and do complete due diligence because I may or may not have invested with them or vetted them, et cetera. And you just always want to be careful with your money, which represents your hard work and time of the past, essentially. Won't bore you with this page, just a bunch of statistics on us. We do have the most visited website in the family office industry, familyoffices.com. And we've got about 17 million social media group members and followers. So a lot of our deal flow and investor connections come in via LinkedIn, especially, is where we're strongest. We have a great newsletter on LinkedIn called Investor Club Edge. We've put out 85 editions to that newsletter. We have about 52,000 subscribers to that. If you haven't subscribed to that yet, it's free, and I encourage you to do so. All right, so one important thing about our events that's different is that many times you'll go to other events and they'll have a big keynote speaker, an important past Army general, a pro athlete, and they're paying $25,000 to $100,000 to have these speakers come to try to fill the room. But sometimes these speakers come in with bodyguards and they leave 4 minutes after they get off stage, and they're there because they want to spread the news about their new book. They want to maybe have other people hear their message and then move on to the next event where they're a keynote and pay $25,000 to speak there. We have no speakers where we're paying them to come on stage. Everyone who's speaking here on stage is coming because they want to make connections, they want to share ideas, they want to invest, they want to meet peers. We're not paying for a single investor's hotel room. We didn't pay for their flights out here. And before I started doing this, my now wife and I were flown around to speak at places, forced into meetings that we didn't really want to be in. And then there's awkwardness when they follow up. And we didn't really want to hear the pitch to begin with, but we got a free trip to Boca Raton for doing so. That's the investment conference industry, and we don't do that for a specific reason. So I'd encourage you to pay attention to that as you go to other events, the dynamic that's happening there. We're a genuine community, and people are here to make connections, do business, get access to deal flow, etc. I grew up in the Boy Scouts. I'm a third-generation Eagle Scout, and I think the more that we can act in alignment with the basic Boy Scout values, probably the better of a community we'll have over time. So that's something that we believe in. I'm based out here in Hawaii, so I'm on the island of Oahu, about 25 minutes from Honolulu. And the reason I bring that up, here's a picture of my family, my wife and 3 girls. The reason I bring that up is that I've found, dealing with lots of ultra-wealthy clients, that over time, you run out of things that you want to buy, and then you say, okay, we have some money for kids to go to college, and then what is left after that? Being a good steward, being a good example, being a good leader, focusing on health, novel experiences, maybe leaving a legacy. It's different for each person. But a lot of times the families that we work with are not all about just collecting more things and buying things. And it's important to make sure as an investor club that we talk about being ultra healthy, not just ultra wealthy as a goal. And that's something that we hold important as well. So I like personally doing fun adventure travel. My brother is just up here on stage. This is us here at Everest for my 40th birthday, etc. So we like to encourage that discussion in the room, because I think that many times at investment events, it's all about deals being pitched and not about the broader goals of what a family office is actually putting their time, their money, and priorities on overall. I hope you all have the WOVA app on your phone or computer. You can use that to network with people here in the room, follow up with them. The only complaint we get from some investors is someone reaching out and saying, hey, I'd like to meet. Are you free tomorrow at 9 a.m.? But you don't say what you'd like to meet on or what you're doing. So having a one-sentence compelling summary of what you're doing is super important, just so they know whether they should say yes or not, depending on why you'd like to meet, of course. All right, here comes the 10 tips here. The more of a class act person you are, probably the better you're going to do in the family office space. A lot of people talk to each other, refer people to other people. If it's very clear what you do and you're adding value, they may refer you to someone before they've even invested with you or gotten to know you. So just doing the right thing, being politely persistent, being professional, institutional quality. If someone says no, not taking it personally. They might just be trying to save you time. That would have been a no after you went deeper into something that it's not a match for them. The other thing to keep in mind throughout the whole event is that Munger says we all need to have 100 different mental models that we collect, tweak, and fine-tune over time. So you might be listening to a speaker, and maybe they're in an area that you're not focused on, but maybe the way they present their idea is amazing, or the way they structured their idea, or the way that they communicate, or some other legal structure or something that you could emulate within your business. And so throughout the event, those who are keeping their mind open to that other form of ROI of being here are probably going to do best long-term. Next is something to remember is that almost all the founders here in the room, almost every person here in the room is a founder. Either you're a founder that's raising capital, or you're helping a founder raise capital for their platform, or you're somebody who has started a business and now you're profiting at 7, 8, 9 figures a year cash flow, or you had a 7, 8, 9 figure exit. So almost everyone in the room is entrepreneurial. And that's really core to the community. It's a common thread among almost everybody here, probably 90% plus of people in the room. Number 4, if you can sharpen the sword on deal structures, you're going to do much, much better at the exact same investment of your time. If you're an investor, you can structure deals to protect your downside better. If you're raising capital, you can structure deals so people sleep better at night, or know that you don't win big until the investor's been de-risked, or you win big together at the same time, etc. And for every hour you put into learning deal structures and offering better ones, or investing your money through better ones, you get a massive return on your investment. And this is something that I think is really underlooked by most investors that we talk to. They don't know how to structure a multi-share class LLC. They don't even ask the simple question of, could there be collateral in place to protect my investment? They've never structured a deal with gross revenue royalties before, et cetera, et cetera. It goes pretty deep. Number 5, this is what I mentioned during my introduction here. Jeffrey Gitomer says that the good news is that life is not perfectly fair and evenly distributed. Those that like and trust someone are going to do more business with them. It can be unfair in your advantage if you have the relationship and build that. And they've also shown in studies that the relationship is twice as likely to determine whether a deal gets done rather than the merits of the deal or the bullet points on a pitch deck, et cetera. I think that a lot of times people think when they're new to the community, it's about promising the best return. This is the best deal you've ever seen. It's like, well, if it's not from the best team I've ever met, it doesn't really matter that it looks like the best deal, right? Here's 6 different ways that from our investor club we can help in general. This afternoon, I'm going to be talking about the 5 proprietary artificial intelligence tools that we've built that are only for our club members. These are not available other places. A lot of people use ChatGPT or Grok, Perplexity or Claude. And then you go to try to use these other AI tools. They're mostly in beta mode, don't do what they promised, are half broken or a huge pain to set up. And we found all that the hard way when offering our artificial intelligence mastermind last month. So we went out and designed and created our own AI tools that are super functional for founders, investors, and people raising capital. And I'm going to go through each of those to close out the day this afternoon. So I encourage you to hear that talk because it's not an upsell. It's just included with your membership. We're happy to provide you with those and give us ideas on the next tools we should build out next. We talked about a few of these other things, but powerful positioning we'll get across during our discussion panel tomorrow, where we're going to have one-liners read and rated by investors on stage so you can see what the reaction is. Most investors say you have 3 to 5 seconds, the first sentence of your voicemail, the first page or 2 of your pitch deck, the first line of your email to get their attention, and then they're moving on. I had breakfast with a $1 billion plus family office that signed up to come here just last week, this morning, and they said they get 100 emails a week coming in, and that they have to move on past 99% of them pretty quickly because there's just not enough time to even look in depth. So what that tells you is that the instant first reaction that someone has, it really just doesn't do you justice to have 20 years experience in your niche, whether it's construction or medical practice, et cetera, and then not take the time. It costs no money. Take the time to say it in a really compelling one sentence. Super critical. Saves investors time. They don't want to miss your opportunity if it's great. So it's important. And as an investor, if you don't have that, you're not going to get access to strategic deal flow. We had a member that had a $100 million exit speaking to me up front here. And they're looking for great deal flow, but they're not going to get it if they don't share how they can be strategically helpful to a founder. So they're not just a checkbook. They can help that founder have a $100 million exit as well. Then they're going to get to see deals first exclusively and at a better valuation because they have their one-liner as an investor on how they're strategic. There's a lot of investors out there, but founders would much rather have smart money coming in than just money, right? All right, number 7, clear communication. Related to what I was just talking about, you need to have a one-liner. You need to have a video from your founder that's 1 to 3 minutes long. You need to have a unique focus. You need to have a one-pager, not just a 44-page pitch deck. You need to have headshots on your business cards and your email signature. So remember shaking your hand at the event, that you went to last week, et cetera. And what we find is that out of a room of this size, there might be 2 people in this whole room that have all those things there, and those things cost almost nothing to put into place. You can create a founder video if you needed to on your iPhone. You can create all these other things relatively inexpensively, but we find almost nobody does those things. But it helps save time and it helps people know exactly what you do. So one of our membership options these days is the pitch optimization program. We've got 6 members going through it right now and another one getting started tomorrow. And if you have questions about that, we have an exhibit table out there where Jennifer can help you as head of our membership. But it essentially, you need to have this in place whether you would work through us or do it on your own. Number 8 is to add value first. Going around and basically saying, are you an investor? Are you an investor? Would you invest in this? Without knowing you, the answer is just going to be no. And it's just not going to result in, traction essentially. And so adding value first is one of the most important things, right? Could you introduce them to a client? Could you help them with structuring a deal? Could you help them with the next gen challenge? Could you help their kid get into a university they just submitted an application for? And it turns out your college roommate sits on the board of that university or is an alum, right? Figuring out how to add value to someone and just getting to know them as a human being. If you have a sense of humor that's sometimes rare in finance, maybe sharing that. If you like golf or if you like F1 racing, just normal relationship building, super important, and that gets overlooked quite a lot. So each of us have unique things about us that you can use as your tool set for how you add value to others. But I've once cold emailed a $100 million family and told them I have a structure you could use for growth where you don't have to give away equity and you can scale your retail shops quickly without getting diluted. And they replied the same day, the two co-founders, independently, not knowing I'd emailed the other one. That's a perfect example of adding value first, because it's in their best interest to reply to me, because in their inbox, here's a message where they can see the value very clearly in a sentence and a half, versus people thinking, oh yeah, I add value because my self-storage fund is so amazing that they're going to get value when they invest their money in me. But that's just a pitch. It's not them getting value first. And the equation needs to be you adding value first, ideally. Number 9, there's some communities out there that just bang the create a fund robot drum so hard that I think it really hurts people's progress. I know people that manage $500 million to try to launch a $10 million fund, and it doesn't get off the ground. I know other people that launch a fund and grow to $100 million quickly, and that's amazing, and more power to them. But in general, a lot of family offices like to go into real deals directly. And I would just encourage those who do start a fund to also do direct investments or allow co-investments, just so you're not hamstrung by thinking that the fund is the holy grail, and if you don't like funds, then we're not going to work with you, because we're all founders and entrepreneurs here in the room mostly. Some of us like to structure deals in creative ways, and you might be losing out on some of your biggest investors by not being agile in that way. Number 9 is that a lot of investors here in the room are quiet wealth. They don't go around saying, hey, I'm Richard, head of my family office, I manage $100 million. They might say, oh, we're in the car wash business, but maybe they sold their 150 car washes, or maybe they have 42 car washes, et cetera. They might not want to or feel a need to flaunt how wealthy they are. They might not have a huge Rolex or a Lamborghini. A lot of them are just founders and love building businesses. And sometimes the net worth can be an inverse relation to how wealthy they put off they are. And they're really low-key wealthy. So it's just important to know that, because when you meet people in the room, some of the people you may think are not wealthy might be the wealthiest people you meet during the whole event. And so you just have to be careful with that, and just know that about the family office space. It's not like going to an endowment conference and say, oh, what endowment are you the CIO of? And then it's like very crystal clear, et cetera. Last tip here would just be to make sure that you listen to the panels and talks on stage. It sounds such a simple idea, but at an event like this, sometimes people that try the hardest get the least value, because they're outside networking the whole time. They don't hear anything on stage, and at the end of the event, it'll be like, oh, does anyone here invest in real estate? And I say, oh yeah, well, we had like 2 panels on that, and it was 30% of all the content. So for sure, a lot of people do, but they missed the whole event because they were trying so hard to meet people. So you can be much more precise in who you approach when you hear on stage exactly what people are investing in, where they're focused with their energy. And there's a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because it might feel slower to listen, and then thoughtfully reach out to somebody. But if you've been in the family office space, you know that if you cold email 100 family offices, how many are going to get back to you with your blanket template message? Like very few, unless you're amazingly good at writing your one-liner and you're offering value first. Very few, because they don't have time to reply to everybody. You have to be pinpoint specific with who you're approaching and why. If you are a founder, raising capital, developing real estate, or you're an investor, would love for you to get involved in the Family Office Club. I've run this community for 18 years now. We've hosted 300 live events. We have 17 million social media group members and followers. We have the #1 YouTube channel on family offices. We have the #1 most popular podcast on family offices. You can learn more about us and our membership options at familyoffices.com. We have 30 in-person events planned in 2026 and another dozen events this year. Please go to familyoffices.com to learn more.